In today's video, I'm reviewing my new 2023 Toyota BZ4X, which amazingly I've already put almost 1,000 miles on. Now the BZ4X is Toyota's all-new electric SUV, and in many ways it's kind of their first all-electric vehicle. They did previously offer a Toyota RAV4 that was all-electric, but it was offered in very limited quantities and in limited markets. And so this is really their first real go at a mainstream all-electric vehicle. Now the BZ4X is a sibling to the Subaru Solterra. Toyota and Subaru co-developed the two vehicles, and they're essentially identical with a few aesthetic differences. And then the Solterra is available standard with all-wheel drive, while the BZ4X is available in either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. The BZ4X is available in two different trim configurations, either the base XLE model, which starts out at about $43,000 for a front-wheel drive model, or this higher end limited model, which starts out at about $48,000 for front wheel drive. This all wheel drive model with a few options has a sticker price of just over $51,000. The styling on the BZ4X is definitely controversial. I think primarily due to the front fascia, which looks a little bit odd, and then the black fender flares that tie in below the headlights. The fender flare design is similar on the Solterra, but I think that the front fascia looks a little nicer on the Subaru Solterra, and I probably would have gone with that model, except that the Solterra is on a reservation system and they're sold out for this year. And so I compromised and went with the BZ4X, and honestly I think it looks a lot better in person than it did in the photos. Now in terms of the overall look of the BZ4X, I actually feel like it has a lot in common with the RAV4. It's a little bit more modern, the styling is a little edgier, but there's a lot that's pretty similar in terms of the look of the two vehicles. I think the BZ4X has a very athletic look to it with some really nice design cues, some creases and bulges that just give it kind of that athletic stance. With this being the limited model, it's also got the larger wheel design, which I think really makes the vehicle look a lot better. Unfortunately, it does see a lower range than the XLE model, but again, I think it's worth the trade-off with these wheels having a much more attractive appearance and really bringing the design of the vehicle together a lot better than what you see on the XLE. You'll see on this model, we've got the premium LED headlights, which have a pretty cool look. Parking sensors integrated into the front bumper, as well as a camera. And one kind of unique design cue is this piece right here is actually hollow, cutting through to the tires. You can see my fingers sticking through right there. It's for aerodynamics, but it also looks kind of cool. I also like the two-tone color we got on this model with this black accent on the hood, and then we've also got the black roof. I think the two-tone design is pretty cool. Unfortunately, the two-tone design was a cost premium on the BZ4X, as well as this white, which is a really pretty color, but I was surprised that it was a premium. Got black mirrors as well, and cameras integrated below, part of the 360 camera system. We've also got a smart key with automatic unlocking and locking on both the front passenger door and the driver door. Up top, we've got a panoramic sunroof and integrated side rails. We also get the split spoiler back here above the rear window, which I think looks pretty cool. There's a secondary spoiler right here at the bottom lip of the window, and then very dramatic taillight design with this piece cutting this direction and this black piece cutting down to the bottom. The taillights do look pretty cool at night. They're also LED. Got parking sensors in the bumper, as well as our backup camera. I've got to say, one of my least favorite things about the vehicle is the name. They need to change that. The BZ4X is such a stupid name. I feel embarrassed anytime somebody asks me what kind of car this is. That sun gives you a nice look at the color. Really pretty color. And then you'll see up here on the front fender, this is where our charge port is located. And then we've got our fast charge port down below. Interesting little flaps that they have to keep those weather tight. I haven't seen that on other electric vehicles before, but I suppose additional protection for those is probably not a bad thing. Looking inside, you'll see that the interior is not very traditional. On the contrary, it's got a pretty unique look to it. Again, maybe kind of modern, but also a little bit weird. And in some ways, I wish Toyota would have done things a little bit more ordinary. You'll see, that primarily with the instrument cluster here, which unlike most vehicles where you look through the steering wheel to see the instrument cluster, in this model, you look over the steering wheel to the instrument cluster. And so it almost has kind of a heads-up display type feel to it. I'm starting to get used to it, but I do think it's a little bit odd. The other thing that I don't necessarily love about that is that if you're really short, it's going to be hard to see over that steering wheel. If you're tall, it's easy to see over it, but headroom seems to be a little bit limited in the BZ4X. So if you're a taller person, I don't know this is going to be the vehicle for you. I'm 5'10" and it works, but it feels a little bit odd at times because I feel like my head is pretty close to the ceiling, but then it kind of needs to be to see over the steering wheel. So, a little bit weird for sure. You'll see that the center console here is also kind of a different design. There's no glove box, which is crazy to me that they wouldn't have that. Just seems like that's kind of a necessity in any vehicle to be able to keep various things. And then the other thing that I found kind of odd is that we've got a panoramic sunroof up here, and this is a single continuous piece of glass all the way across the top. It's fixed, so it doesn't open, but then they've also got this bar here in the middle that blocks a bunch of the glass. So seems odd. I mean, I'm sure they need to do this for structural reasons, but if you're gonna do that, it almost seems like you'd have a fixed piece of glass in the rear and then an operable sunroof here in the front. So just a few things that are kind of weird about it. It's not to say that I don't like the interior, but there's definitely some things that are a little bit different. And in some ways, I wish that they would have just kept it more normal. Now, with this being the limited model, it does have a lot of features. Of course, we've got power windows, power door locks, power mirrors, full power driver's seat here with lumbar support. We've got automatic high beams, button here for the rear hatch. Go ahead and jump inside. We've got a smart key with push button start. Give you a look at the steering wheel here with that instrument cluster, so you can see how that just feels kind of weird looking over the top instead of looking through like you would on most vehicles. Steering wheel, we've got a number of our controls for vehicle settings, audio controls, our cruise control, which is an adaptive system, some of our lane keep assist functions. On the instrument cluster, you'll see, again, not a very traditional display here. We've got a digital speedometer, gives you a little bit of information on whether you're using power or regenerating power when coasting or braking. Gives us our estimated range right here, which, as you'll see, is quite a bit higher than that 222 number. I'll get into that in a little bit more, and then a few other readouts here, and you'll see that I'm currently at 981 miles on the odometer. On our center display here, it's a 12.3-inch screen with definitely kind of a landscape feel to it. This profile not loaded screen has been the bane of my existence since I bought the vehicle. It's been nothing but warning screens popping up, and oftentimes it'll do it like 10 times in a row, and I've got to keep dismissing it. I've had a lot of trouble with connectivity with my phone, so I'm hoping that Toyota's going to work out some of the bugs with this system and do some over-the-air updates or some sort of recall when I take it in for maintenance or something, but definitely seem to be a lot of bugs in this system. I've also got a 2022 Toyota Tundra. It's basically the exact same layout between the two vehicles. And one thing that's kind of cool about that is that it transfers a lot of the personal settings over between the two vehicles. So like my radio presets were automatically programmed into the BZ4X, so that's kind of cool. But my complaints with this system are consistent with what I've seen in the Tundra. It's just not a very functional system. It's got a lot of bugs with it, and they don't really seem to use the screen space very efficiently. So Toyota's got a long way to go with their new screen layouts. The Tundra, I believe, is the first vehicle where Toyota has kind of developed the programming of this system on their own. So there's probably a lot of bugs they're working out, things that they're, learning in the process, and hopefully we'll see some improvements to those with time. Now below that, we've got our climate control features. You'll see that we've got heated seats, ventilated seats, heated steering wheel. We've also got some leg warmers, which are kind of cool. We push that there. We've got a heating element right below the steering wheel here that has radiant heat. Now it's a pretty cool thing. The only problem though is that when my legs are kind of sitting in their normal position, they're not really lined up with that center, so they don't feel that heat too much. To really feel that, I've got to drive with my knees together like this, which feels weird and just isn't the way that I drive. So a little bit odd. Passenger side also has the same thing right here. Again, you've got to be pretty close to it to actually feel that heat. And you see you've got the button right here for that piece. The passengers also got heated seats and ventilated seats. And then we've got a dual zone climate control system for the driver and the front passenger. Now, another thing that I don't necessarily love about the BZ4X is the volume control right here. It's just one of those things that when you're driving down the road and you want to decrease or increase the volume, it's a little bit hard to try to find these buttons without taking your eyes off the road. I'd prefer that they just had a knob like any other vehicle that you just twist to the left or twist to the right. There is a volume control here on the steering wheel, so that's a good alternative. But again, it's just one of those things where it's like, why did they have to do it differently on this vehicle? Why didn't they just keep it the same? One thing I do want to show you real quick as well, when you turn that heat on, you'll see currently my range is sitting at 265. If I turn on that heat, you'll see that drops to 185. So that's one thing that you'll notice, depending on whether that heat is on or not, has a very significant impact on the range. You'll see down below here, we can adjust this is not to adjust the pedals. This is regenerative braking. So you can push this to turn the regenerative braking on and off. Basically allows for single foot driving. We've got our emergency parking brake. We've got a brake hold. So if you're sitting at like a stoplight, you can push this, take your foot off the brake, and the vehicle won't move until you accelerate. We've got our gear shifter here, which is different. You push down to put it in neutral, to the left to put it in reverse, and to the right to put it in drive. You'll see that when we put it in reverse, we've got our 360 camera as well as our backup camera. And then we've also got a view button right here that we can push. Let's see if we put that into drive and then we push it. Now it gives us our front view and then 360. We've also got a few other modes that we can adjust through here. And you'll see that it gives us kind of that bird's eye view, or we can come back to the bumper view. We've got an eco mode here, and then we've got the X mode. This is a feature that comes over from Subaru. Basically, when you're driving at lower speeds, you can push that X mode, and then you'll see currently it's set to snow and dirt, and it'll change some of the throttle response, braking response, some of that to give you better traction in those types of situations. And then we've also got a button here that we can use to turn off the traction control. This compartment right here, you open it up and you can put your cell phone in here for wireless charging. Also got a USB outlet here. I feel like this is kind of a weird setup to close this. I guess it's to prevent you from using your phone while you're driving, but I feel like it's just kind of a waste of this space. I think this could have been done more efficiently. Likewise, we got this storage space down below here, but it's not really all that functional. I would have preferred that this was just closed going down and we just had storage space going down that you just kind of throw all your stuff in here. You see down below we've got some USB-C outlet and then another 12-volt outlet. We've got 2 cup holders here, and then this center armrest slides forward and backward. And then if we open it up, we've got some storage space here in the middle. And then because we don't have a glove box, that's where all of our manuals go. So at least there's some extra space down below there. This is a little bit small though, so you kind of need all that extra space. And it would just be so nice if we had a glove box. You'll see the doors also have cup holder space built in. And then on our mirror, we've got HomeLink garage door openers. You can program up to 3 garage door openers or gates. And we've got some reading lights up above here. Got the SOS button if you subscribe to that service. And then again, we've got our panoramic sunroof, which is kind of not panoramic. The rear seat is plenty spacious, as you can see with these 2 car seats that still allow plenty of legroom for my kids. Center seat has an armrest that folds down with some cup holders and some storage space. On this limited model, we also get heated seats for both of the side rear passengers, and we've got some USB-C outlets as well as a couple vents. Once again, give you a look at that panoramic sunroof, which does bring some light in to the rear seat. And then once again, we've got some cup holder space Coming around back, we do have an electronic rear hatch. And inside it feels pretty spacious, but compared with a RAV4, it's actually lacking a little bit. We've got about 26 cubic feet of space here compared with 38 on the RAV4. I think that's primarily due to this dramatic slope that we've got at the rear hatch. Nonetheless, still plenty spacious back here. And then you'll see below the floorboard, we've got a little more storage space. Got an LED light on this side. Couple little hooks for hanging bags or groceries on both sides. And then we've also got this built-in privacy cover. Unlike many other all-electric vehicles that offer a handy front space up here with additional storage, unfortunately the BZ4X doesn't. Instead, you'll see that it's full of equipment. And as I mentioned, the BZ4X is available in either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Front-wheel drive models have a single motor at the front axle offering 201 horsepower and paired to a 63.4 kilowatt-hour battery pack with a max recharge rate of 150 kilowatts. All-wheel drive models like this have two electric motors, one at the front and one at the rear axle, with a combined 215 horsepower, paired to a slightly larger 65.5 kilowatt-hour battery pack and offering a lower recharge rate of 100 kilowatts. Now, depending on whether you get a front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive model and an XLE or a limited model, you're going to see quite a difference in the overall range. The reason for the difference between the XLE and limited model is that the limiteds have a larger wheel that's less efficient. Now, your front-wheel drive XLE has an estimated range of 252 miles. Front-wheel drive limited model is rated at 242 miles. And then on the all-wheel drive models, your XLE is rated at 228 miles, and then the limited model like this is rated at 222 miles. As far as charging times to fully charge the BZ4X, on a level 2 charger, you're looking at about 9 hours to get to a full charge. And then on a DC fast charger, to add about 80% of charge, you're looking at roughly an hour. 0 to 60 time on the BZ4X is going to vary from about 6 to 8 seconds, depending on whether you have the single or dual motor. The overall driving characteristics of the BZ4X are pretty good, as I mentioned. It's quiet, it's smooth, it's comfortable, and although it's not crazy fast, I've never really felt like there's a lack of power either. 215 doesn't sound like a lot, but whether I'm trying to get up to highway speeds or going up a steep hill, I've never really felt like it's short on power. It seems like it's, relatively quick. The handling characteristics are pretty good, but that is one thing that I've definitely kind of noticed lacking a little bit when compared with other similar vehicles where I feel more comfortable driving in snow and ice. I feel like the BZ4X could be a little bit better in that department, especially given that it was co-developed with Subaru. Now, I'm not running snow tires on this vehicle. It's just the stock factory tires, which are probably more focused on rolling resistance. But I also had a Ford F-150 Lightning, the all-electric new F-150, and that wasn't running snow tires either. And both my wife and I felt like it had far superior handling characteristics when compared with the BZ4X. Not what you expect for a pickup, but it just handled a lot better than this does. Again, it's not to say that this doesn't handle well, but I just don't feel like I can drive quite as quickly or as comfortably in snowy and icy conditions as I'm used to. Overall, the BZ4X is really nice to drive. It's comfortable, it's smooth, it's quiet, it's got enough power, but I'd say that the thing that's probably the most surprising, maybe even the most disappointing about the BZ4X is that it just doesn't have any level of kind of excitement or thrill factor that you see with pretty much any other electric vehicle. Most electric vehicles are insanely quick. They've got amazing handling. They're just tons of torque, tons of horsepower, and that's not the experience that you get with the BZ4X. The same is also true of recharge rates and range. Both are pretty unimpressive on the BZ4X, and it's, to be honest, kind of consistent with the Toyota brand as a whole. I feel like in general, they're not really into doing groundbreaking things. Big picture, they're more into creating vehicles that safely and reliably get you from point A to point B. And I feel like the trade-off to that is that their vehicles tend to be more reliable, and they also tend to have better resale value. And I'm expecting the same will be true with the BZ4X. It doesn't have huge amounts of horsepower and torque. It doesn't have crazy recharge rates, hugely impressive ranges. And my hope with that is that all of that put together means that this vehicle is also going to be more reliable long term, because it's not doing crazy things that other electric vehicles are doing that might wear out other components or cause the batteries to, you know, not last as long. And so it's kind of a downside of the BZ4X, but I also see it as a potential upside. Another thing that I thought was going to be really cool about the BZ4X that turned out to be not so cool after all is that it comes with 1 year of free charging at EVgo charging stations. Now, if you've never heard of EVgo, you're not alone. I'd never heard of them either, and there's a reason for that. It's because they've got a very limited network. None available locally for me, and I'm looking at about a 3 to 4 hour drive to get to the closest EVgo charging station. So that's a service I definitely won't be able to take advantage of with my vehicle. But one thing that is kind of cool is that there's other free charging stations locally, various businesses that offer free charging, and so that's been a nice little perk with the BZ4X. Now, speaking of things that are free but also not free, the BZ4X comes with navigation like pretty much any other new vehicle, and it's free but only for 3 years, and then there's a subscription that you have to pay to keep the navigation functional. Now, it doesn't really matter to me because, like everyone else, I'm pretty much using my phone, and the vehicle has CarPlay, so I can use the navigation from my phone over the CarPlay system. But it's still just one of those things where it's an element of the vehicle that I wish would stay functional, and it doesn't seem like they should need to charge additional to keep that service active. But that seems to be the way that things are going. Same with auto start. I believe that's only free for a short period, and then the auto start comes at a fee, along with many other services that automakers are talking about moving to subscriptions. So there you have it. That's a look at the 2023 Toyota BZ4X. If you enjoyed today's video, or if it was helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And for more videos of the BZ4X, be sure to subscribe. In the meantime, thanks for watching.